Hey everybody, it's Carlos from Immortals Inc. Podcast, and today I'm going to talk about an exciting, it's not new.
Is it? Oh no, it's not new.
No, not new. We're going to talk about some sorcery. Sorcery, not the weirdo version of sorcery, but we're going to talk about the card game sorcery. Ready? About a year ago, maybe a year.
Yeah, you informed me. This has been out for a year now.
Somebody started talking about this game Sorcery, and I'm always reluctant to pull in new card games because, yeah, it's, well, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh's not new, but, oh, you're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh?
I was talking about Kaijudo.
Oh, Kaiju. There's been numerous card games. Kaijudo, there's been my favorite, Gentleman's Duel. There's been Jihad, yeah. Vampire. Well, Vampire made a resurgence, though. It's got a cult following.
Eternal Struggle.
Imagine that. Vampire is a cult following. Anyway, there's been a lot. Especially some anime games. I'm talking about like recent games.
Yeah.
You know, like when new stuff comes up. Like even the Star Wars game, like they were like, oh, you got to get like case. I'm like, no, I'm not getting that. And of course, I missed out on that. So,
yep.
But it's just hard to get. Well, anyway, this game called Sorcery, Contested Realms came out.
Show that box art too, man. It's like that's what got me.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things about it. First off, I didn't want to hear anything about it because I'm like, whatever. You know, it's Sorcery. It's a small game. So then a couple people ask, and then I was like, well, let me see if I can get some boxes, like one or two boxes. Well, then there's an alpha and a beta. Well, you know, of course, you couldn't get the alpha because the price went way up. So I'm like, well, that's going to kill a game if you don't reproduce it. So they made beta. I was like, well, I couldn't get any anyway. And I was like, well, I just kind of let it go. Then a friend of mine who's always in a new game, he's always bugging me for new games or, oh, did you get this? Did you get this? And he asked a couple times. And then a couple other people ask. And then I saw it was up for pre-order on my distributor. So I was like, all right, I'll get. And the stuff I was able to get was called Sorcery, Arthurian Legends. My buddy came back in again. And he said, hey, you want to play a game? I'm like, all right, I'll try. You know, because I just... Not that I'm important or anything. It's just I'm busy sometimes. I'm like sometimes a card game, and I don't want to get involved in another card game. And I got it in. So we sat down and we played. And first he rolls out this mat. You saw the mat,
yeah,
right?
I'll show it right now. Yeah.
And he rolls out this huge mat. It's got all these grids, and I'm like, I'm not playing. I'm not going to play Federation and Empire or spaceship battles or this other. I'm like, please don't make me do this. He's like, oh no, it's easy. He goes, all right, there's 2 decks. I'm like, all right, now I'm already turned off by this. He goes, no, listen, there's a landscape. Can't remember. I'm terrible, right? Landscape, and then there's a spell deck. You get 3 of each, and you start your hand that way. I'm like, all right, let me see. Blah. So what it is the grid is actually your realm. So there's like 24 spots. So you have 12 and your opponent has 12. And then you have like an avatar, which is like mine was like a druid or a knight or somebody, you know, something basic, nothing over the top. So then you start the game by, you can tap, you get to draw 1 card from either your spell or your realm deck. And what it is your realm deck, I want to say land realm. I'm sorry if I'm sure you'll put something underneath that says the correct what I'm supposed to say. You start playing these land cards into these like gridded off area. So you have 12 and you just start playing them. Now that's your mana, would be considered your energy or mana, and also where you can go. So now you're building, it's like you're building
like a city or something.
Yeah. Like you're building a realm. So some, you know, like a babbling brook or a troll bridge or a poisonous land or whatever you want to play. So you start building that. And when you're building that, that's also how you pull mana, and the term isn't mana. I'm sorry, contested realm. I'm sorry, sorcery, but it's how you cast your spells, and then you start playing creatures on these places. Well, then what happens is your opponent you eventually meet, so your lands eventually meet, and you have like a little war there. So you're like, oh, I'm going to play some creatures on here, and you start moving your creatures across the board, and when you get to their land, you can attack their realms directly. And that causes damage to the avatar of the realm. You start out with 20 points each. You can't get more than 20, if we understood the rules correctly. And then when you attack the realms, you you're basically taking away from those 20, and then that's the objective of the game. You can attack the creatures directly, you can clash the realms directly, you can block and all that other stuff.
What about the avatar? Can you attack him directly?
Yeah, you can attack the avatar directly. So we just were playing, and each turn you can draw one card from each of the deck. Your avatar can tap, and you can do different things like put a new realm down, or a new land down. You can draw cards. You can play different things, and like the druid. I have a druid deck, which is, I could put out like bears and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, and it's a lot of thinking, and it's not that fast shuffle through. Like there's so many different things you could do because your lands also have, they're called Genesis effects. So when the land drops in your realm, it causes something to the board. Like you could put something down and it causes everything around it to take 1 point of damage, or it allows your characters on tap or your creatures to untap. It also has lasting effects on some of it. Like you could throw down, like an example would be like there's a card called Briar Patch. So your enemies can't go through the briars without taking a damage. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, so you could set up a defense, you could set up cities, and it depends on what kind of deck you're building. I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. And then what I liked that I just forgot about, because I just played it with my buddy, and there's when you hit 0, when you take your opponent to 0, he's not dead. You have to do a final blow to him. So you have to chase this guy around his realm. So like you're going back and forth. So it's not like, oh, I did this damage, and then bam, I'm like, oh, I'm at 0. So he could start running around trying to get his allies in front. So it's like a final chase scene is what you're doing there. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. You have to give a death blow directly.
You have to embarrass that guy.
Yeah, you have to chase him down and make your final
realm's
stand.
already destroyed.
But at the same time, you could still run and use your defenses to get away and say, oh, whoa, and keep him at bay and figure it out. So it's a longer, more thought-provoking game. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. So of course, like me being the addict that I am sometimes, 2 boxes later, I opened up this Arthurian Legend, and I built a couple decks. There's some interesting things about this is people this has like an underground following, not an underground, but like a grassroots campaign. Yeah. I watched where they just had
now it's lightly played.
Yeah, slightly played. I just watched where they had a sorcery con where nothing but like sorcery players there. And you could tell it was like a bunch of people, guys and gals, that liked playing this game. And it takes time. There's no time limit. There's no fast shuffle. There's no back and forth. And I liked it. And it was a thought. It's almost like chess and magic pushed together. And it was well thought out. And another thing I had found out was a guy came and he was from, and I forgot his name, and I promised just if you watch this and you remember me, like me on Discord or friend me on Discord or whatever. And because we were talking old school. Remember the guy who brought him in here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was telling me all about the old stuff and like how there's a bunch of the Arthurian Legends. There's a bunch of inside jokes, or there's like references to the original Arthur series in there about this product. And then there's like these super secret, crazy rares. Remember I was telling you on the back of the card, it says Sorcery. It says something different, but they don't publish it out there like, hey, you got to find these cards. No, they don't say anything. They say, why is this different? I don't know. It's different. But it's not different from a misprint. It's different because that's the way they made it. And then that's super rare. And there's a lot of stuff in the beginning there. Another thing he told me is like, if you take these boxes, there's little QR codes on the bottom. You scratch it off and you set up an account with them, and all of a sudden you got points. So when you buy a box, it's at the bottom of the thing, and you get points for it. And then you can use it for later on. I think it's products or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know
you
what
could buy boxes with the points.
Can you?
That's what the guy you were talking to.
That's what he said. Oh, okay.
Well, about that.
Yeah,
then you could buy different stuff, but yeah.
That's mistaken. That's a marketing, like I don't want to say gimmick, but that's a marketing thing. But still, I think that's kind of cool.
It's pretty genius marketing.
Yeah. So, but the other thing I liked, which I did not know, was they go against, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they don't want any AI art. All these cards, you have to turn in an original piece of art to be on the card. And if you look at these cards, would you not agree it reminds me a throwback to like when Magic first came out, it was all original art, and you could tell it was original art. But they also have a lot of famous artists that are doing these items.
Like art that speaks to you, and you're like, okay, that's what art is,
Yeah, because you can look at it like sometimes, and I'm not ragging on Magic because Magic does do a lot of.
Even their art now is great.
Yeah, but they have had their problems with AI and getting caught with people cheating. And if you look at their products sometime, It's not just Magic; it's some other card games. But like a lot of them, they look at them and they all the same. They're all the same kind of artwork. They're all kind of like
it's beginning to be lifeless, like in a way.
Yeah, it's almost
art is supposed to have life to it, and vice versa.
You know how you could tell when you like make me an AI story, and then you start reading, you're like, oh, this is AI. You know what I'm saying? You could tell, and that's the same thing with art. You can look at it and go, oh, you could tell. This, it's obvious that it's not. You can look at it, go, oh, look at this, and there's some good old artists, some good new artists, and you could just tell they're not the classic. They're like the example would be that Earl Otis behind you. Earl Otis had his own style it's just his style, and you could tell that's original in what it's done with. Even like the Jeff D behind you with the like that stuff like that. Yeah, and but some of it you could tell. Man, I hate to use an example. I don't like ragging on people. But even that, like, say that little MetaZoo thing up top, you could tell that was probably an original, but it has a quality to it that it's like, well, it's an original, but they probably use some kind of like same style together. But you can tell this is not. So not only is it a good thought thing, a thought game. I mean, this isn't a quick game either. We just played a couple games. We know 80-90% of the rules. I mean, I'm sure we were looking it up. The rules are free online, by the way. You could look it up and I mean, what were we playing? I got like a couple hours.
Yeah, well, playing for about 2 hours.
Well, first I forgot I can draw, and there's a mechanic I forgot to do, and he beat me real quick. I'm like, wow, why did I die? He goes, oh, were you?
Also, the set thing is very interesting. How often they drop sets?
Was it like once a year?
That's what you told me. You told me.
I know it's not as much.
It's literally,
I don't know for sure.
I think it's around once a year that they drop a set compared to these other companies doing,
100,
couple thousand sets a year.
And like I said, it's very small. It's a small company. I don't know much about the company. I want to learn about the company. So, if the company, which is, who makes this anyway? Is it just Sorcery?
That's a good question.
Oh, it's Eric and Eric's Curie. So, I think I'm gonna have to look into this. I think there's a lot of levels.
If anybody
to this.
from Sorcery is watching this and they want to come on the podcast and talk more about it, definitely reach out to us. Love to have you on. Yeah,
there's a lot of levels to this I'm looking at, and it's kind of cool. So if you haven't tried Sorcery or seen Sorcery, give it a look. There's a video I watched, and I'll have to forward it to you, and maybe you can attach this. But it's a video. It's called Sorcery Con, and small con, and they were just talking about the game and how they liked it and what they did and why. Very very grassroots, I guess you could say, and it gives a pretty good feel for the game. So give that a look, and then if you want to start a Sorcery, I have a deck now. I built a deck based solely on the artwork because I opened up these cards. I'm like, oh, look at these artworks, and they had a lot of good like fairy or fairyland artwork, and I'm like, oh, this is very good. It gives you the feel of the old school, and it's just nice and relaxing. And I'm like, I'm going to build this kind of deck solely on that, and I didn't care about
fairy deck, manly.
Yeah, I could be a man. Part of being a man is being able to say what you want. But give it a try. Comes in 24 packs. What? How much do we charge for these things? Like $5?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They're reasonably priced
$5-6
too.
a pack.
Yeah, they're very reasonably priced.
Yeah, we have boxes in store. So.
Yeah, it's probably a little hard to get. I imagine with the popularity, it will become easier and more mainstream. But I don't have any starters. We only have the booster boxes for the Sorcery. And if you wait too long, I'm probably going to end up having all of these myself. So
probably.
I know, right? So this is me. I got my little trade binder. Nerd.
Trade binder. Nerd.
So I don't know how well this will come out, but this is some of the foils and some of the just the foils and some of the cards they have. But you could tell by the artwork. And then the land cards, the realm cards are sideways. So you actually have two decks. One's a 30-card deck, which is your land card decks, and then the other card is a 50-card deck. But if you like what you see, like what you saw, give us a like, give us a subscribe.
Join us too. That's big now, built-in Patreon.
We're closing in on, we just close to 1,700 subscribers.
Yeah.
I'd like to see 2,000.
If you guys see ads in our videos and you're like, damn, why do they have ads in there? We're sorry, but we've officially met that threshold.
Yeah,
and
the ads.
We appreciate the support. Like I said, that you're just supporting us more. So you could either get YouTube Premium or you could just hit skip on the ads, but we're here for the long run.
All right. Till next time.